extract is the best way to start off if you're new to brewing. It's a very simple process of making beer and kind of gives you a better explanation and understanding how the mechanics work. Before you get started doing extract, you're going to need a few pieces of equipment. What we suggest is at least a minimum 16-quart pot. You need something that can hold about, I'd say, 2.5 gallons worth of water and about a gallon's worth of headspace. Secondly, you're going to need a primary fermenter. These fermenters come with your starter brewery kits. And lastly, this is optional, a wort chiller. I'll be covering that later in this video. So when you're actually ready to start brewing, you're going to actually get an extract kit. These extract kits include grains, your yeast, your hops, and your extract. Your grains will come in a bag that usually looks like this, and you'll have a grain bag that you can actually put these grains into. And what you're going to do is when you start warming up your water, you're going to steep it in this hot water. I'll cover that later in a few minutes in this video. It also comes with your extract. Extract comes in powdered form and liquid form. We're going to be adding that to our beer too. Comes with your yeast. What I'm going to do now, this is called Y-yeast. It's called an activator, and what happens is there's a little activator packet that is a nutrient for your yeast. I find that packet, I smack it, shake it up, let it sit on the counter. Within an hour or two, you're going to see that start to expand. And basically what I did is I just gave the yeast some nutrient, gave them a head start before I pitch it into my finished beer. It's going to come with your hops. The directions are going to tell you when you add these hops. These directions include everything on how to inspect your equipment, clean your equipment, steep your grains, how to boil your beer, when to add your extracts, powdered and liquid, and your hops, various ways to cool down your beer, your 2-week fermentation process, and your bottling process, which is going to be another tutorial. Next up, we're actually going to start our boil on the stove. Okay, we're actually going to start making our beer here. We are at the stage where we're actually going to steep our grains. Your kits will include a bag of grains that are already blended for you. Mostly they're all specialty grains to add color and flavoring to your beer. And your kit is going to come with a sock bag. Some refer them to as muslin bags. You're going to put your grains in this bag. I usually tie a knot right in the end here. I'm going to make sure my temperature is at about 155, which it is. And I'm going to turn off my heat here. And I'm going to soak these grains in my hot water for anywhere from 15 minutes to about a half hour. I'll set my timer here. Another little thing I do is a little trick is I tie it around the side here so it doesn't drop to the bottom. Set my timer. And I'd say anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes I come over and I just give it a couple tugs, let it extract a little bit here. And we'll let it go for about a half hour here. Okay, we are 30 minutes into steeping our grains here. Now we're actually going to remove the grain bag from our pot here and add our extract. You always want to make sure that you remove the pot from the burner before you add your extract because it can scorch on the bottom of your pot here. I'm going to add the first portion of the dried malt extract. And then I'm going to add my liquid extract here. My little secret is I put it in hot water before I add it to soften it up so it comes out of the pail a little easier. Now that I've added my malt extract, what I'm going to do is stir it in there real good. Make sure it's completely dissolved. And then once that's dissolved, I'm actually going to put it on my burner and I'm going to crank the heat up until I see my first bubble. Okay, now it looks like our beer is about to start to boil up here. Have a nice rapid boil going. And we're going to start our hop additions here. Now with our hop additions, you can actually add your hops directly right into your wort here. What I like to use is these little disposable hop bags. Just makes it easier for me to clean out at the end of the boil. Most extract kits are done through a 60-minute boil with hop additions. So what you want to do is you'll set your timer for 60 minutes, and you'll start the timer right when you add that first hop bag. So I set it for 60 minutes, started my first hop addition. Your directions will state what time to add the additional hop additions. With this one, I have one at 30, one at the last 15, and one at the last 5. When I'm done these hop additions, I'm going to turn off my burner, pull it off the stove, and start my cool down process. One thing I must really emphasize is make sure you keep an eye on your boil. Boilovers are happen very easily, and they seem to happen as soon as you turn your back. So you want to really make sure you play with your temperature here, and just keep an eye on it, because if you get a boilover, it's a huge mess and it's not fun to clean up. We have now finished our boil and finished our hop additions. We're now at a point where we actually want to chill down our wort. And to do this, there's several different ways. What you can do is, what a lot of people, if they don't have the proper equipment, they'll put it in an ice bath. And what that is just some water and some ice cubes. You soak it in there anywhere for about an hour, hour and a half, and it'll slowly cool your beer down. When you make beer, you want to cool down as quick as possible. It'll add clarity to your beer. So what most homebrewers use is a tool called a wort chiller. What it is a copper coil, and you immerse it right into your finished wort here, and you pump cold water through it. And what that cold water does is this thing acts like a giant ice cube, and then it runs off, and I usually collect it in the other side of my sink. I plug it up and I use it for washing dishes later. Next step, once it's cooled down below 80 degrees, we're going to add our yeast. Okay, we are now at our final stage here of making beer with extract. And what I've done here is I've cooled down my wort below 80 degrees and I'm about to pitch my yeast. And if you remember earlier in the tutorial when we cracked the Y yeast packet and shook it up with the yeast nutrient, it's now expanded and is extremely swollen. That means it's ready to be pitched. So I'm going to tear it open here. I'm going to pour it in. I'm going to mix it up pretty well. I'm going to put my lid on. Make sure it's sealed tightly. Make sure my airlock is filled with water. I sometimes like to use sanitation solution or some cheap vodka. That way it's sterilized. And what I'm going to do is let this ferment at a temperature between 60 and 70 degrees for about 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, your beer is going to be fermented, and it's going to be ready to be bottled or kegged, which I'll cover in another tutorial for you. I hope you enjoyed today's video tutorial. For more information on our products or more video tutorials, please visit us at youcanbrewit.com. Cheers.